Hi, everyone. I'm here with Jarhon Giddings, a former men's basketball player here at U of R. He's currently the head boys basketball coach at Midlothian High School, and I'm really excited to jump into this conversation. Jarhon, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I know you had an accomplished career with our men's basketball program, and you also had the opportunity to play internationally, as well as with the Premier Basketball League. So could you tell us a little bit about that experience and how you feel U of R helped prepare you for that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've always loved the game of basketball, everything about it, especially playing. And I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to continue playing after, my college career was done. And certainly being recruited by Jerry Wainwright and spending a year under him and then playing for Coach Mooney certainly were two different philosophies, and the experiences and lessons I learned from both really helped me to prolong my career for a little bit longer, experience the world a little bit and see some things that I otherwise might not have seen. So it was great. I'm very, very thankful for my time at Richmond, both academically and athletically, and thankful that I was able to play at the professional level.
Absolutely. And I know, like I said, currently you're the head coach for Midlothian High. How have you navigated getting into coaching, and what kind of led you to the coaching profession? And how do you hope to impact youth through sports?
Well, once I was done playing competitively, and that was kind of winding down and coming to an end, I knew that I still wanted to be involved with the game in some capacity. And I always was interested in coaching just to see, if I could just give back to the game that gave so much to me, and just, again, a game that I love so much in the game of basketball. And I really, really wanted to share my experiences and learn lessons with the next generation of basketball players, and really encourage them to pursue basketball to the fullest extent. It's just been something that, again, I never thought I'd see Cyprus or, Bahrain or Israel or anywhere like that. And basketball took me there. And so it was really just one of those life enriching experiences that, I otherwise might not have had were it not for basketball. So again, the many, many lessons that I learned from basketball, I just want to pass on and have, the next generation experience some of those things as well, experience that camaraderie of being part of a team and working together for a common goal, and some of those things that carry on into other areas of life.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And kind of going right off of that, how have you helped your student athletes kind of adjust to the impact of COVID, and what kind of lessons and skills do you hope they're learning during this difficult time?
I think the most important thing is to be flexible and be considerate of others. Everyone, there are differing opinions on, the pandemic and COVID, and as we know now, it's affected a lot of people in different ways. So I think the main thing was to kind of don't make it about you. I think was the main theme for our season. Just be considerate of others, and again, be flexible. And I think it really helped as far as mental toughness, being able to block out the distractions and things, because things were different. We had to, take temperatures when people entered the building. We had to do seating charts for buses and road games. There were a lot of things that we had to do this year that we normally didn't have to do. And some people could see that as a minor annoyance, but I think it's a good lesson in caring about your fellow man and not just thinking about yourself in the situation, being able to look outside of your own bubble here, and then also just being thankful for the opportunity. I mean, there was a point where we didn't know whether we would have a season. And so I think, being grateful for the opportunity, especially my seniors this year, we had 7 of them. Their careers could have kind of ended without a senior season, without so much as a practice. So I think just being grateful for the opportunity and never just taking for granted that, because you like to do something that you're always going to be able to do it. You know, things happen and you have to adjust. So I think those were very important lessons that we learned this year.
Right. And on top of COVID, our student athletes are also engaging in very difficult conversations surrounding our country's history of systemic racism. And I know you were a former team captain. So, what advice do you have for our team captains and our leaders who are sometimes leading these conversations and engaging their teammates and friends? What advice do you have for them there?
I would say one of the most important things to consider is don't assume anything. Don't assume that people share your perspective. Don't assume that people are knowledgeable about the history of systemic racism in this country. And then also, you know, if they don't know, that's not really a reason to get angry. I think for some of us, we have experienced it in varying degrees, you know, in our youth and even as adults. And it's something that we were always very, very conscious of from a certain age. That's not the case for everybody. And not everybody is willfully turning a blind eye to some of the issues that are plaguing the country. I just think that, again, you could be in a circumstance where it doesn't really apply to you or your immediate friends and family. And so you just kind of miss it. You know, you kind of miss it, and you may see a news story or here and there. And, you know, depending on how locked in and how much you're paying attention to it, you might still miss it. You might miss the root of the issue. You might kind of make assumptions about why things happen the way that they do. And so, you know, for people who are facilitating or being a part of these discussions, I would say just don't assume that everyone would understand your perspective, and try as best as you can to not be frustrated when they don't immediately understand it. I think the important part of what's going on now in our country is that there is an ongoing discussion, and understanding of different perspectives can come from that honest and genuine discussion. And so that's the most important part, because it hasn't always been discussed, and it has been swept under the rug. But you can't really assume that those who you might be talking to at a given time did that.
Right.
So again, just being understanding of where they're coming from, because you want them to understand where you're coming from. So that's the beautiful thing about it, is we get to share our perspectives and grow from each other's experiences.
Absolutely. That's incredible advice. And kind of shifting gears a little bit, I know in 2019, you had the opportunity to coach some of our very own UR legends in a tournament. And so could you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Man, that was different, right? It was different because, you know, this is my fourth year as a varsity basketball coach at the high school level, obviously. And, you know, I've never been in a situation where I was, you know, kind of coaching professional players. And so I knew all the guys on the team. Some of them were my former teammates, but it's interesting because they are all currently playing professionally. So they know the game. And so they've learned a lot, even at the international level. And so it's interesting to kind of, I would say I was less of a coach and more of just like, it was just more of a conversation, and just kind of one of those things where, you know, we would just talk about the different things we saw. Obviously, I'm on the sideline. I was, you know, pull, you know, one of the guys like Chandre or TJ aside and be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. How do you think we could take advantage of that? It was more of that as opposed to like calling plays and sets. And it was very interesting because I'm used to kind of being in control of the team that, you know, I've been tasked with being in charge of. Well, with these guys, it was interesting because, again, you got to trust that they know certain situations and they know what they like to do and where they're most comfortable. And the good part about that team was, you know, a lot of those guys had played together before. Right. And so it was really it was really amazing to kind of see them figure out the game, even though, you know, there were some UR alum, there were some guys who were just from the Richmond area in general. And, the way it came together was really, really cool. And it's interesting. We won the Elam ending is obviously the big thing with the basketball tournament in the summer. And it was interesting because we won on literally a game winner, but we were down, and we called timeout when we had the ball, and the players drew the play up. I just handed them the board. TJ Klein came to the sideline and said, "I know exactly what I want to do. I know what's going to work." And he had heard them say that they weren't going to switch, and he drew it up, and they ran it to perfection. It was amazing to watch, and so I'm really, really thankful for that experience and that camaraderie and bonding that I had with those guys that summer.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I don't even know what I would do in that situation. All these legends coming together. No, that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And the final question I have for you is any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our current student athletes, particularly our student athletes of color?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say don't limit yourself to your current situation. There was a point, from my personal experience, there was a point in time where I wasn't sure what I was going to do, after college and after playing in college, and I wasn't sure there was going to be an opportunity to continue playing and do the professional thing. And again, I was very fortunate to see some different parts of the world that I otherwise might not have seen, meet some incredible people along the way. Learn more about the game as far as how it's played in different areas of the world, different levels. I actually had the opportunity to play for, in the Premier Basketball League, Cliff Livingston, who won some championships with the Bulls, and Michael Jordan. So it's like those type of experiences and the lessons that come from those experiences have like really helped shape who I am today and kind of guided my steps as to what I wanted to do after my playing career. So I would say to the current, student athletes, don't put yourself in a box and don't assume that, if you have some goals that you want to achieve that are related to what you're doing now, the sport that you're playing now, really pursue those and don't assume that doors are going to be closed just because you see yourself at a different level from other people, because you never know what doors might open. And as far as for the student athletes of color, really, I would say really embrace the leadership role that comes with being a student athlete, not just within your team, but also in the community, the school community and the larger community around you, because, people look up to you and you can really inspire the next generation to do great things. And I think that's an important responsibility to be aware of and to embrace going forward, to really inspire the youth to, pursue their dreams and become, something that they might not have, originally thought. But when they look at you playing the game that they also might love, that might spark something in them and they're looking at you. And so, don't be afraid to kind of embrace that and give back in any way you can.
Absolutely. Once again, great advice. I appreciate being able to talk to you. I know you're having an incredible impact on your team and in the community. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing and keep going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right.